Okay, so we are now in number 6. This is type 2 for MT4, basic algebra and algebraic manipulation. So we have 3 expressions to factor. So number 6 is all about factoring. So let's look at letter A. So for letter A, we have 42 HKV minus 63 HKU minus 14 HUV. So for factoring, the basic idea is to factor out the highest common factor. So for the highest common factor, you have to consider the numbers and you have to consider the variables. If you look at the numbers, we have 42, we have 63, and we have 14. The highest common factor for 42, 63, and 14 is 7. Now, there are many ways to identify the highest common factor. If you could recognize it immediately, then that's better. But if you can't recognize that the 7 is the highest common factor, you have to use other ways on how to identify the highest common factor. But that's not covered in this explanation, so you have to look at some references on how, or to find different ways on how to find the highest common factor. Okay, so once you have identified the highest common factor, which is 7 for the numbers, and then for the letters, you have to check which letter is common among the terms. If you look at the terms, you have HKV, so you have HKV, you have HKU, and HUV. And the common variable here is H. So that means you can factor out the H together with the 7. And once you have factored out the 7H, this is just a matter of dividing the terms by the highest common factor. So taking 42HKV, if you divide that by 7H, so 42 divided by 7 is 6. The H will cancel and you have KV left with a 6. For the minus 63HKU, 63 divided by 7 is 9. H will cancel and then you have KU with the 9. For 14, 14 divided by 7, that's 2. Again, H will cancel, and then UV will be with the 2. Now, you could also check if you have factored out the highest common factor with the remaining expressions after dividing the given expression. If you look at 6, 9, and 2, the only common factor for 6, 9, and 2, and the highest common factor is just 1. So that means 7 is the highest common factor. And you could also see that there is no other letter aside from H that is common to the 3 terms. Hence, we were able to factor the given expression completely. So that's just one of the many types of expressions that you will be factoring. So the common expression will be given 3 terms or maybe 4 terms. Find the highest common factor, factor that out, and then you're done. Okay, in letter B, it's a different case. You have a group of expressions. Okay, so we have 2 groups here, 3x times 2b minus 3 and minus 2y times 2b minus 3. The idea in letter B is the same as for letter A. You have to look for the common factor for the groups. In this case, if you look at the groups, both of them contain 2b minus 3, so you can factor out 2b minus 3 as the highest common factor. So if we will do that, if you look at 2b minus 3, if you factor that out, so 2b minus 3, so what's left in the first group will be 3x. So you have to write the 3x. And then if you factor out 2b minus 3 for the second group, and then that will give you minus 2y as the remaining term. Hence, the factored form of 3x times 2b minus 3 minus 2y times 2b minus 3 is 2b minus 3 times 3x minus 2y. Okay, so again, the expressions will change, but the idea will remain the same. Always look for the common factor. In this case, it's very obvious, it's 2b minus 3. So factor that out and then work on the remaining expressions. Okay? For letter C, again, it's the same idea. If you look at 10x times x plus 4 minus 18y times x plus 4, you could see that the common factor is x plus 4. So you factor out the x plus 4. So this is your x plus 4. And then after doing that, you have 10x remaining. So you write the 10x. And then for the second group, you have minus 18y. The difference of letter C and letter B is that after doing that, you could still factor the remaining expression. If you look at letter B, you have 3x minus 2y. You can't do anything with the 3x minus 2y. But for 10x minus 18y, 10 and 18 are even numbers, so that means these numbers are divisible by 2. So you can factor out the 2. When you factor out the 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 10x by 2 will be 5x. At the same time, minus 18y or negative 18y divided by 2 is negative 9y. So you have x plus 4, the first factor, you have the 2 coming from 10 and 18, and you have 5x minus 9y. And then for the last step, you just have to arrange the factors. So you write the number first. So you have the 2 written first and then followed by x plus 4 and then 5x minus 9y. Letter D. For letter D, so how is this different to B and C and even from A? You have 4hx times 3p plus 2q and then minus 8kx times 2q plus 3p. Okay, so if you look at the second group, the 2q plus 3p is basically the same as 3p plus 2q. So that means you have to arrange first. You have to arrange first the expression so that you will see the common factor. As you can see in the second step, so I have arranged 2q and 3p. I have written 3p before the 2q. So it is now clear that the common factor is 3p plus 2q. So the next step, you factor out the common factor, that's 3p plus 2q. When you do that, you have 4hx from the first term and minus 8kx from the second term. Then always check, can you still factor the remaining expression? So 4 and 8 are both divisible by 4, while x is a common variable for the terms. So that means you could still factor this into 4x, again 4 coming from 4 and 8, and x coming from or being the same variable from hx and kx. So if you factor out 4x, if you remove 4 and x, you have h. So let's change that, that's h. And then if you factor out 4x from 8kx, that's 8 divided by 4, that's 2, so you have 2k. So the final answer will be 4x, that's the first factor, you just have to arrange it. 4x, and then 3p plus 2q, and then you have, so this should be h, so h minus 2k. Okay, so writing the answer again, this is 4x times 3p plus 2q, and then h minus 2k. So that's the factored form. Okay, so each item is actually a special case. So you have seen how to factor each type of expression. You have letter A, you just have to inspect what is a common factor for the numbers and for the letters. For letter B, factoring a common expression from a group without simplifying further. Letter C is like letter B, but you have additional step. And then letter D, you have to perform some initial steps so that you could perform the process you have performed for letter B and C. Okay, so that's for factoring. That's it.